Welcome back to another episode of JRCtv. Today, as you can see, we're not in normal studios. I don't have my fancy white shades on. That's okay. It's respectful with a human to not cover your eyes.
I'm going to have to tune in to see these white shades sometime.
They're pretty cool.
Actually, I think I've seen... I think I know what you're talking about. I think I've seen them.
There's a secret reason why. I'll tell you later.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with public speaking. But today we are talking about public speaking. And this is... Hold on one second.
Oh.
Topher Morrison, as you can tell. There he is. Oh, there he appeared.
What a shock.
As you're tuning in, love to know, number one, first off, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Number two, I'd love to know three things you're grateful for right out there in Facebook world. I'm going to jump on here and make sure this is, hey, look at us.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm actually looking for this live stream broadcast as well.
Oh, it's working. Very nice. Carrie, welcome. Ravi, welcome. Tim Rupel, welcome.
You can come in. This is Facebook Live. It's not.
Now, as you're tuning in, again, love to know, number one, where you're tuning in from. Number two, I'd love to know three things you're grateful for. This is the beautiful Jody. Welcome.
It's my work wife.
she runs everything around here.
I can't find. Have you seen the live stream?
John Paul, welcome. Mom, welcome. Julie, welcome. Madeline, welcome. So as you're tuning in, love to know, number one, where you're tuning in from. One more time. Number two, I'd love to know three things you're grateful for out there in Facebook world. Also, Stockholm, Sweden, very nice. Welcome.
Well.
Let's see.
Wow.
So big question is, we have a couple questions to start with. Julie, welcome. East Park, Colorado.
There's your shades.
Yeah, those are the ones. Let's see. East Park, Colorado, Stockholm, Sweden. So couple questions.
I'm not getting this on my phone.
Oh, here, I'll find it for you.
He's going to look for this live broadcast on my phone so I can share it with my group of people as well. So while he's doing that, I guess I'll take over and talk a little bit about who's getting on here as well. Now, this is where I always get burned at some point in time when I'm doing some kind of live Facebook or live streaming thing because I am insecure. I don't wear my glasses when I'm on video, and now I cannot read his microscopic font that he has on his phone. So anything that I would be able to see, I can't see. So.
Let's see. Hello from Atlanta. Grateful for the failures I've had to learn from family and friends. Greetings from London. Good, Stuart. Nice to see you. Grateful for a beautiful day, my son, my health, my juice, my business.
On my page now.
Grateful for the majesty of the mountains, the rain. Beautiful. Jesse, what's up? Welcome. Topher, thank you for sharing it. Appreciate that.
It's not. Am I sharing it now? Because I hit
you
share.
Shared it.
Okay,
you shared it twice now.
I'm a little bit of a Facebook live stream Luddite.
That's okay. We'll get him up and going in a minute here. So as you're tuning in one more time, just people brand new, first time. Number one, love to know where you're tuning in from. Number two, I'd love to know three things you're grateful for right out there. The reason I asked that, there's some scientific study that says if you train your brain to look for what's good in the world, it overall scientifically proves it raises your overall satisfaction with life.
I would agree with that 100%.
Pretty simple.
What are you most grateful for right now?
Let's see.
Get him. You got to hold him accountable. See, he asks the questions of you, but you got to ask it back to him.
I'm grateful. Honestly, I'm really, truly grateful for every breath in my body. I was watching a beautiful YouTube video from this young kid named Zach. I shared it earlier. And it's this young guy who got diagnosed with a terminal disease. And he wrote this beautiful song called Clouds as his way out. Just to say goodbye to everybody.
Wow.
And he sang it to his girlfriend. And then this cool channel called Soul Pancake heard about it. And they pinged it out to all their friends. Jason Mraz, like a bunch of celebrity people, and they all got together and made this beautiful montage singing the song back to him.
Oh, wicked!
As his goodbye present.
That's very cool. Yeah, that makes you appreciate life. All right, cool.
Yes. How about you?
Well, I'm most grateful for you right now, helping to spread the word about my new book sale, doing the live cast. So I'm definitely grateful for that. I'm grateful that I got to eavesdrop in on a weekend's workshop that you were doing for business and life coaches here at my office this weekend. I was like, I got to just listen in to his genius all day and weekend. It was pretty cool. The doors were open, and I was in my office, and he was here in this room, and I got to chime in. So I was grateful to be able to listen in on that.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. Mainly, I was grateful for the stuff that Amanda said, not so much you. She's clearly the one that's carrying you in this relationship.
Hey, she's the boss in business. I'm married up.
No question.
I'm married up.
Yep.
So, Dwayne, welcome. Sonia, welcome. So today, we have a couple questions to get started. We're going to chat a little, but things that we want to know from you to get started with. Number one, we'd love to know if you could write a book, what topic would you write a book on? Number 2, we'd love to know if you could speak with any celebrity, any famous
Speaker,
person.
somebody who's inspired you.
Someone who's inspired you.
Alive or dead.
Alive or dead. Abe Lincoln's still in the mix.
Even undead, if for those of you that are fans of zombies.
There you go. The undead, that could work. But if you, Kate, welcome. If you were going to speak on stage with somebody and present with them as part of the group, who would that be? So number 1, what book would you write? Number 2, if you were going to present, who would you want to present with, alive or dead? Just someone that you'd love to share the stage with and share a message with the same audience. So those are some examples. Jody, welcome. And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask you those questions right now. Fill them in the comment section. We're going to come back to that in a few moments and chat with you about it. For right now, this is my good friend Topher Morrison. Welcome to Facebook Live.
Thank you very much.
Hello,
nice
everyone.
To be on here.
Please say welcome to Topher.
I love the system that you're using because I hate Facebook Lives that are portrait.
When you're
I'm all
staring
about
at your
landscape.
phone?
All about landscape. Hate the portrait. Like the landscape. The fact that you have a software that allows you to do it in landscape mode, very cool. Also, to be fair, if we had to do it in portrait, the interview would be very awkward and intimate because we'd
We'd just be very close to each other the whole time.
So anyway, I'm very, very impressed by this software. I'm going to have to look into that. And
very cool.
so anyway, yeah. So we're here today to speak about public speaking.
Public speaking. So where are we going to start with this? And when you think of public speaking, there's lots of different ways to speak publicly. I mean, the simplest way is you walk outside and
Find a stranger and talk.
Not even that. You just stand there and speak publicly. And someone might listen.
Unlikely, but there's a few people down in the park that don't have anything better to do. They might be tuning in.
I've seen people try this, though, and most of the time we call them crazy and run away from them.
Yeah, there's actually a place in London called Speaker's Corner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where people do this.
Yeah, and people can get up and talk about whatever they want for, I think, 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's interesting. But to do it intelligently and professionally, where do we start?
Yeah. Well, let's maybe we should talk about the term public speaking as well to identify that, because I used to never use the term. I used to always talk about professional speaking because that's my forte and that's what I've been doing for the past 30 years. And I have a very specific definition between public speaking versus professional speaking. And so I used to only market for professional speakers, and I found that the majority of the people who would benefit from what I had to share really actually were more concerned about public speaking because they didn't consider themselves a professional speaker. I hear people all the time that go, well, I'm not a professional speaker. I'm just a business owner, and I get up and I speak. So let me talk about the difference between public speaking and professional speaking, and it'll seem almost hypocritical that I have a book now called The Book on Public Speaking.
There you go.
Shameless plug. There we go. We probably, I guess if we were thinking, we should have actually maybe had a copy
I'll
of the
go
book.
get one. You talk to them.
Okay.
I'll be right back.
So here's how I define the difference between public speaking and professional speaking. Public speaking, you have to pay for the privilege to get up on stage and speak, meaning you pay for your own gas, you pay for your own airfare, you pay for your own hotel, you pay for your own food when you go to the chamber event, and you get up and you talk, right? So if when you get done speaking, you technically have less money than when you began, you're a public speaker. You're a professional speaker if you get paid for the honor to get up and speak to people. And what I mean by that is not necessarily getting a speaker's fee, but if when you speak, you inspire people to want to do business with you, I got news for you. You might think you're a public speaker, you're a professional speaker. Anytime you have the opportunity to generate revenue from being up and speaking in front of a group of people, which could be 2 or more people, then you are a professional speaker, not a public speaker. Why did I call the book on public speaking? Because that's the term that people really get. But in the very first, I think in the foreword or the chapter 1 of the intro or something, I don't know. I talk very clearly about that really it helps to get a frame of mind. When you get up on stage, you can either have less money or more money at the end. And you want to have more money at the end if you're in business. And that's really who this book was written for, by the way. Jairek is written for small business owners or founders of companies that feel like they've got information to share. And that information could be what their company is, or it could be just their life's lessons, their strategies for success. That's who this book was written for.
Very nice.
Yeah.
I like it. So I missed out a little bit what we were sharing. Can you catch me up?
Yeah, I was just talking about the difference between public speaking and professional speaking. The public speakers pay to get on stage, but professional speakers get paid to get on stage. Either that's through back-of-the-room sales, generating business, or a speaking fee.
Very cool. Very cool. And so in getting started, I heard you say at the end here that the difference is, this is for someone who might be a small business owner. They could be a lawyer They have to public speak all
Any
the
type
time.
of a professional individual that wants to get up and speak, this book was written specifically for them.
What about, and just a side audience, what about the people who need to get up and speak within their own organizations? Now,
Same thing.
it's kind of an interesting twist because they're like, well, I don't get paid to speak. But then the question is, do you?
You're punching the clock. You're getting paid. So you're paid to do whatever activity you're doing
Like if you're
that
the
day.
boss and you have to stand up in front of your team and have a discussion. I don't know about you. For the companies I've worked with, luckily I've worked with some great companies. They have great speakers in them.
Yeah.
But some companies, you go sit through their meetings and you listen to the boss speak and you're like, wow.
Yeah, it's just a news fest.
I don't understand how you make it through these meetings.
And here's the thing. If that boss gets a bonus based upon performance, and their performance is directly related to how that boss inspires them, guess what? They're a professional speaker because they have the opportunity to get paid to speak. By the way, this live stream is not going to be about the book. It's going to be about strategies on speaking. This is just the reason we use to get together because it's on sale today.
It's on sale today. So
Yes.
Amazon, Barnes & Noble.
Yeah, so it's in bookstores nationwide. It's online. Technically does not release until tomorrow.
Okay.
But you can pre-order it today, and it'll be delivered to your Kindle, your Nook Reader, anything like that. We are actually having a bit of a fun challenge with some of the e-providers. Right now, iBooks and Barnes & Noble still has it on full price.
Okay.
But every other e-tailer out there in the world has it for $2.99.
Wow.
Why? Because today, believe it or not, is National Professional Speakers Day. Yes, that's a real thing. There's a national day for professional speakers. It's not a bank holiday. I'm going to petition for that. I think that it should be someday. But nonetheless, so in honor of National Professional Speakers Day, we're doing a one-day-only sale. E-books are $2.99.
Wow, very cool. So you can go grab an ebook version of this for $2.99 instead of $14.
I think the hardback is like $17.95, and the ebook is like $12 or $11.95, and it'll go up to that price tomorrow. But today only it's $2.99.
Very cool. So great savings.
Yep.
So go grab a copy of this public speaking Topher Morrison.
You know what else I
there.
love about this live stream is that you can read the text. It's not backward like it is on the cheap Facebook Live phone thing.
That's because we're doing straight on.
Oh, is it? Is it actually reversed that they're saying it?
No, they're saying it straight on. Well, let's check.
Interesting.
No,
Yeah, cool.
We're just checking. Sorry.
It's the details.
Okay, so let's dive in. Could you please write down the name of the book? So here's what, if someone's watching right now, could you type this in real quick? What is it? The Book on Public Speaking is the name of it right here. And the author's name is Topher Morrison. As a matter of fact,
it's my subtle subliminal message in the background.
If one of you wouldn't mind, can you go to Amazon real quick or Barnes & Noble or any of the book sites? Can you grab a link to it real quick and put it in the comment section?
I can do that.
If you wouldn't mind. That way people can literally just click that link.
Although I lost the Facebook feed.
That's okay. Someone will do it. We have some great people who watch consistently. We're very, very appreciative for them.
Yep.
As a matter of fact, what we might do for participation, for those of you who've already answered the question so far, could we give a signed copy away to someone? We'll pay for the shipping and mail it to them.
Yeah.
So we'll do a signed copy of this to someone from the author right here. We'll have them sign at the end. And so if you... Couple things. Number one, if you buy the book, just wrote, I bought it, somewhere in the comment section. Number two, if you answer all the questions that we're going to be asking you and talking to you about today, I'm going to pick someone who answered all the questions, and you don't have to buy the book because I'm going to give you a free copy.
Yeah.
But
you can buy the ebook for
anyone who
$2.99.
buys the book, it'll up your chances of getting one signed. Just saying, can't promise anything. There you go. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Jody. So let's dive in. The questions to start with so far, if you missed them because you just tuned in. Number one, if you could write a book on any topic, what topic would you write it on? And then the second question we had was, if you could speak on stage with anyone as a speaker, presenter, a celebrity, anybody, but you could speak next to someone on stage with them to the same audience, who would you want to speak with? And let's throw in one. What topic would you want to present on? That's interesting. This is the link. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so let's dive into some conversation around this. So we differentiated between public speaker and professional speaker. And where do we go from here in this conversation?
I think probably the thing to talk about would be this. a lot of times when people get up and they have the opportunity to speak, they don't necessarily know how or where they're going to be doing that. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes they're caught off guard. There are, if you want to be successful in speaking, doesn't mean as a motivational speaker, as a full-time career, but if you want to just be successful in your own right, being able to get up and impress people, there are 3 areas that I think professional speaking or public speaking needs to be addressed. So these are the 3 areas. Number 1 is speaking on stage. Number 2 is speaking in front of a camera. And number 3 is working behind the desk. And those 3 things have an equal role to play in order to do it effectively. So what I mean by that is that when, number 1, if you're speaking on stage, you would think naturally then that if you're just going to get in front of a camera, you speak the same way on camera that you do on stage. Not true. The skills of speaking on stage do not translate all the way over to speaking on camera. This is why there are motivational speakers, professional speakers that you and I both know who are incredible up on stage, right? And they do an amazing job. They blow the audience away. And yet they've never been able to take off on camera. They just don't seem to have there's something missing. Well, they're trying to speak to the camera audience the same way you would speak to a live audience, and it's not the same. Even if you're live streaming, you're not speaking to a quote-unquote live audience in front of you, so you still need to employ the same tactics as you would speaking on camera. And then the third one, as far as speaking behind the working behind the desk, listen, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people practicing the night before an event or that morning of the event. They're still working on their slides. If you're still working on your slides the day of the event, you didn't work behind the desk the right way. And that's all about the preparation and making sure you've done that effectively. So 3 specific components: behind the desk, in front of the camera, and on the stage.
Very cool. Yeah. So behind the desk. And so what are some tips for each? If we were to just 1 or 2 tips in each section there.
Sure.
And let's start where you're supposed to start, behind the desk.
Behind the desk, yeah. So the biggest tip I'd say there is that your time will bite you in the ass, so you don't have as much time as you think you do in order to prepare. So start preparing long before that happens. A good mark or a good test of how you're prepared for your presentation is if you can watch your favorite TV show the night before your presentation. That's your standard for knowing that you're fully prepared. Otherwise, you're going to be burning the midnight. And here's the thing. I share with you a personal story. Have a client of mine. She had the opportunity of her very first investor pitch. It was going to be a rough draft anyway. We knew that because she'd only been preparing for about a week and designing the slides and everything else. And I was creating the whole presentation for her as well, which is even harder when you're memorizing somebody else's presentation. So I did the slides. I did wrote the presentation out for her. All she had to do was just simply memorize that. But that's easier said than done. Yeah. She comes in the morning of the presentation, and I said, "How much sleep did you get?" She goes, "About 2 hours. I was up all night trying to work." And so she was really tired. Being tired put her at an emotional disadvantage. Right. Then all of a sudden the stress of investing or pitching to investors who could give her millions of dollars started to build up in her. And before she knew it, she was having anxiety, she was nervous, and then when she got in there to actually do the presentation, it was kind of like a crash and burn because the normal level of emotional resources that she has with a full night's sleep, she was missing. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen speakers do that. They work all throughout the night getting ready, and then when they get up on stage, they just don't have the capacity to remember and recall information as much as they're fatigued. So behind the desk, it's absolutely prepare, practice as much as you possibly can, and have it timelined out. So, for example, if your presentation is in 1 month, well then, by week 1, you want to have it scripted. By week 2, you want to have the slides. By week 3, you want to have all of the notes from the script into the presenter sections of the slides. By week 4, you want to be practicing that presentation once a day, twice a day, 3 a day, whatever you can pull off. Yep. The last thing you do is you never want the first time you do the presentation to be in front of the audience. That's a long time to do it.
Wow, I love that. So that's behind the desk. The next step is
on the stage, maybe.
Okay.
Yep. Or it could be, if we're doing this chronologically, maybe it's in front of the camera to promote the live event.
Interesting. Okay, so let's do that. So in front of the camera, what changes there?
In front of the camera. So in front of the camera, now you're performing. Now you're speaking. And the one thing, there's a couple of things, especially with Facebook Live coming out now. If you notice, I'm being very careful not to look at my picture on the screen. I'm looking at this. Well, this is a Mac. So we've got a green light where the camera's at it, right? there, right? So I'm looking at that green light. I'm not looking down at the screen. I see too often people, and I'm going to zoom in to make it a little bit more obvious, but because you see people with their phones, they're going like this. Hey, how you guys doing on Facebook? And they're looking at the screen and they're checking their hair out and they're making sure that everything looks good. And they just keep looking at the screen of where they're speaking. And there's an emotional disconnect right now between me and all of those viewers that are out there because I'm not looking in their eyes. But when I'm looking in the lens, now I'm looking you in the eye. So you want to look your audience in the eye, which means look at the lens. And you don't even want to look at the lens, by the way. You actually want to look through the lens. So I'm not looking at the green light. I'm looking, which is a little camera light. I'm looking through it and imagining that there's people on the other side over there because I want to emote. I want to connect with you guys emotionally. And I can't connect with you guys emotionally if I'm staring at a green light. But I can hallucinate that I'm looking at an audience and I'm never looking at the screen because when I'm looking at the screen, this is a disconnect emotionally, right? So we don't want to look at the screen. We want to look up at the camera light. So if you have a hard time with that, what I always tell people is I say, if you can't stop not looking at yourself because you're just so beautiful, take a book and place it right up in front of the screen to where you can only see the camera, but you can't see the actual screen itself. That's one. Another one, a very subtle one, that I see people do, and you did it on this one as well. So this will be me busting you on it, but it's so easy to do. In fact, if you look at every one of my Facebook Lives, I do it too. So no judgments here. One of the things you probably don't want to do when you're speaking to an audience is use the term everybody. Like when you go, hi everybody, how you doing? Thanks for tuning into my Facebook Live. That's what I say, what you say, everybody says, right? It's not the right thing to say. What you want to do is you really just go, hi. Thanks for taking the time to get on my Facebook Live. I appreciate you tuning in. What I'd love for you to do is I'd love for you to just make a quick comment, tell me hi, let me know you're there so I know that you're paying attention. And I'm speaking to them in first person, right? As it's just one person. And here's why. When somebody is watching Facebook Live, they're doing it generally alone. Like the odds of them going, hey guys, let's sit around the house and watch, it's unlikely. So when you are looking into the lens and you're going, hey everybody, psychologically, they're kind of going, where's the everybody, right? So we want this to be a one-on-one conversation. Hi, thanks for checking in on Facebook Live. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you being here. And I'm just speaking to one person. Having said that, I'm pretty sure you can go back to just about every one of my Facebook Lives and I start them all off with the same thing you do. It's just, hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Facebook Live. It's just easy. It's a habit that we got to break, right? Whereas if you're speaking in front of an audience, so you're on stage, totally appropriate to get up on stage and go, hey everybody, how you doing? Thanks for coming out tonight. I'm really glad you're here because they are sitting in an audience of everybody. Makes total sense. It's the context of what you do. You'll find you have a better connection if you speak to one person on camera, even if it's Facebook live streaming.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder if I tried the live audience, if I walked out and said, listen, I'm grateful you're here.
You could, if you did that with just one person, but then when you run the risk is maybe then all of the other people will go, well, what the hell about me? Right? Yeah.
It would make it interesting, though.
So the strategy there is you make eye contact with one and say, hey, everybody, thanks for coming out tonight. And now you can use the everybody term, but look at one, and that one will feel very special for just a moment, but they'll all still feel included. It's an energetic thing as well.
Interesting. I like that.
Subtle things. Yes.
So there's a couple tips. So we've covered on stage. We've covered, behind the desk.
Behind the desk.
On camera. What's left is on stage.
Yeah. So on stage, if I were to give my one thing that kind of, if I could give one quick strategy out of the book, I mean, the book's filled, a third of the book is all about on stage, obviously, would be that, well, let me put this in perspective. There we go. Yeah, you can read it the other way, too. If you were to dress today like people were dressing back in the 70s and the 80s, would you be taken seriously when you showed up for work? No, because you'd look like you're probably going to a costume party. If you were an architect and you were to design a building today that looked like it was designed in 1970 or 1980, right? Would people want to buy that building? No, because the architecture of today is different than the architecture of the 80s. Clothing of today is different than the clothing of the 80s. If you were a musician and you wanted to write a song and you wrote it as though it sounded like it was written in the 70s or the 80s, it would not be taken seriously. It would, in fact, be considered retro. There might be a market for that. I'm not saying there isn't a market, but it's probably not contemporary. It's probably not considered cutting edge, right? So if you look at anything, wardrobe, clothing, right? Like if we were to wear clothes that were popular back in the 80s, if we were to talk like was popular back in the 80s, drive cars that looked like that, anything out there, if you were to design it today to look like it did 30, 40 years ago, it'd be a cliche, it'd be a joke. Right? But yet, think about this. How many speakers today still speak like the motivational speakers in 1980? They still say the same bullshit, right? They still get up there and say the same phrases, the same, and the funny thing is, we don't think about it that way, right? We just think, well, that's okay. I'm going to sound like the person who inspired me. But you don't want to sound like the person who inspired you, because if you sound like the person who inspired you, you're a carbon copy, right? You don't want to do that. You want to be original. So the one thing I'd say is try not to sound and walk like and talk like and look like the 1980s motivational speaker. Look like the 2020 motivational speaker. Be different. So let me give you a great example of this. Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yep.
Is a great example of a 2020 speaker, not a 1980 speaker. Totally different vibe, totally different energy. Energy of the 1980s motivational speaker was positive and empowering, and you can do it, you can do anything, you put your mind to it. And Gary Vaynerchuk's the first person to say, I don't give a fuck about your problems, and swear right on camera, right? And he goes, dude, I don't give a shit about your problems. I got problems too. You would never have heard that back in the 80s, right? So, and look at the fame that he's getting. Look at the success that he's getting, because he's so original. He's so unique. He's got a message that is different than all of the other speakers out there. More importantly, by the way, all of the up-and-coming speakers who are just trying to sound like the established ones, right? Like you look at the icons that are out there. You and I all know them, right?
Sure.
You look at your Jim Rohns, your Zig Ziglars, your Brian Tracy's, your Tony Robbins, your Tom Hopkins, or your Les Browns. All of these people, they were popular back then. They can get away with it.
Yep.
Similar to like a Walmart can still be a general store.
Sure.
But if you try to open up a general store now, you're probably going to fail. But you have to open up a specialty store now, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a market for it, yes. But if you really want to make a big impact, try to be original and not sounding them. So one example, for example, that I use in the book is I talk about the you want to prevent or stop asking what I refer to as insultingly obvious questions, right? So an insultingly obvious question would be something like, raise your hand if you want to make more money in 2018 than you did in 2017. Raise your hand if you want to get more out of life. Raise your hand if like those kind of questions. When we ask those questions of our audience, we don't care about the answer. In fact, I'll share with you a personal story. I was doing a speech workshop with a bunch of professional speakers, and I had this really cool story that I used to tell. In fact, I'll demonstrate it. I used to get up and I'd say, how many here have somebody that you would do anything for? Somebody that if they called you in the middle of the night, you'd get out of bed and you'd go help them change that tire. Or if they called you at the busiest point during the day and said it's an emergency, you'd drop everything, leave work, and go be with them. Not everybody has somebody like that in their life, but how many here have somebody like that? I would raise my hand like this. I go, how many? And everybody would raise their hand. Most people would. Some people wouldn't. And I go, not everybody does, but that's okay. And then I go, wouldn't it be great if that someone was you? Like the first person you thought of. When I ask you, is there somebody you do anything for? The first person was you. It was kind of cool emotional impact, right? When I get done with this presentation, this guy looks at me and he goes, yeah, don't ask me insultingly obvious questions because you don't care about the answer anyway. I was like really offended by that. I was like, but I do care. That's what makes me different than all the other speakers. I really care, Bowler, right? Everybody cares. But I took that to heart and I thought, God, maybe he's right. Maybe I don't care. And here's how I defined an insultingly obvious question, or a question that I don't care what the answer is. If regardless of the answer, I'm going to say the very next thing out of my mouth that I intend to say, then I probably don't care about the answer. And if I don't care about the answer, it's probably a careless question, right? So
I think that would rewind back to everyday life. Just how people walk down the street and people walk by, they're like, hey, how are you
doing? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't care.
Did you care?
Yeah.
Did you want to know?
Certainly, yeah.
And that piece, and that's a whole different direction we can cover in a few minutes, but that's really important. Yeah. The conversation with the people and actually caring who you're talking to.
Yeah, caring about them.
I think, and I don't know if you covered it in the book. I didn't read that section yet. But if I were to, I would say some of the behind the desk work, if you get to present to someone, would be getting to know who they are.
Asking legit questions.
So that when you get to them, you actually ask about stuff that's important to them.
Yeah,
and that would be kind of what the link from the desk back to the stage or the camera is knowing Somewhat.
Knowing the right questions and also even knowing the right answers, so you don't even have to answer the questions, right? Like if you're doing like a corporate training event, for example, where you already know who you can predict who the audience is.
Yep.
Being able to say, "Listen, guys, I know your problems. I know your biggest challenges right now are A, B, and C."
Yep.
And they'll sit there and go, "Wow, you took the time to learn all about me, right?
There
That's cool." Too,
yeah.
So let me demonstrate how I do that now, because the audience might be sitting there going, "Well, but if you don't ask the question, how do you continue?" So here's how I do that same vignette now, but without asking the insultingly obvious question. And what I do is I turn it into a rhetorical question. So I say something like this. I say, "I'll bet if I were to ask you, if you have somebody in your life that you would do anything for," you know what I'm talking about, right? That kind of person that if they called at 3 a.m, you'd get up out of bed and you'd go help them change the tire. Or if they called you at your busiest of days in work and they said, "I really need you here," you drop everything, leave work, and you go be with them. I'll bet that if I asked you if you had somebody like that in your life, you'd probably say yes. Maybe not. Not everybody could, but I bet most people would. Now here's my question though. Wouldn't it be cool if that first person that you were thinking of was yourself? Right now, I'm getting the exact same thing. I've got them engaged the same way, but I didn't have to have them raise their hand and do that insultingly obvious stuff. Not that that's bad. It's just that we've been doing that for 40 years as speakers. We need to do something different. We have to look different, walk different, talk different.
I like that.
Yeah.
Very cool. So I'm curious, just looking through some of the chapters, which I'm digging.
By the way, when he said I haven't read some of the book, I'm going to bust his balls. He hasn't read the book yet. His wife read the book, though.
That's true.
His
She
wife
told
read
me
the book.
about it.
Yeah.
She told me about it.
Yeah.
She said it was amazing.
It's all right. We have a. Although I did read your book.
I appreciate that.
Yes, I did. As I say, we've had a non-verbal agreement that we'll never ask each other if we've read our book, so it doesn't have to get awkward. But I did read his book last year. It was one of my 38 books that I read last year, actually.
So, couple questions.
Yes.
And this is the interesting one. So, if you don't know, I've presented on stages before.
A few.
Just
a few.
Just a couple.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is something you've said happened recently.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe we could do something that'd be useful for everybody here, which is, and I'll walk you through step by step what it felt like so that maybe they can relate.
Yeah.
Because what you just said is completely accurate. You have to learn how to be yourself. And what's wild is I grew up in a space where I had lots of examples, from my father to a bunch of friends of the family and people I look up to and friends that have mentored me over the years, who all have their way of being professional. And what's interesting is you observe that and you learn it. And you go, oh, if you're going to do this, you should probably do it like that because that's how it's done.
Right.
And luckily, some of them have updated their style over the years, which is cool. They've become much cooler than what their haircut looked like in the 80s. But the thought process of it's still something to observe, and there's natural behaviors. And I always chalk it up as DNA to some part, just because you can't change who you're related to, that concept.
Yeah.
But there's other piece that are learned behaviors, and that's something you've noted, which is you've learned a behavior because you've observed it so many times that you think it's the right thing to do. And in finding your own message, you're actually someone that helped teach me that a long time ago. I think like 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Which was, I was a walking, talking, breathing copy of my dad.
Yeah.
And that's all I knew. And I knew it worked.
Can I jump in here? This is so cool, though. I want to brag about him for a moment because in the speaking world, I mean, let's face it, your father is the undisputed king of motivation.
Heavyweight champ.
And I love that man. I mean, I respect him beyond belief. My life is the way it is because of him, right? And so I respect him so much. And working for him, I used to walk and talk and sound like him as well. We all did, right? And it's funny that when I got into the speaker training, I would see so many people trying to walk like him and talk like him and sound like him. You're the first person I think I've ever met that was like, I don't want to walk like my dad. I don't want to talk like him. I don't want to sound like him. But because it's in your DNA, there's so many things that you do that just sounds like him. And it's funny. You'll never be able to shake it. But the fact that you were consciously aware of going, I don't want to, you had probably a harder uphill battle than anybody else in the world, than all of us. I mean, let's face it, we all, like you said in the beginning, we start copying the people that inspire us the most. You've got it in your DNA, man. I don't know how you can break that, but
some of them I won't.
Yeah.
So there's some looks where I'll look at the camera and do something and look at an old footage of him and be like, oh shit, he looks like me. Yeah. And I tease him. I'll text him a picture and be like, stop doing shit like I do it. And he's like, hey, I came first. Nice try. Like, shit. So there's some stuff like that, and that's just weird stuff you pick up along the way. But then there's purposeful things.
Correct.
How you dress, what you wear, how you cut your hair, like all the things you can choose. You can't choose a weird thing you do with your face or lips or something.
Yeah.
But you can choose other things you do.
Mm-hmm.
And what's wild, I'll walk you through something recent. I was invited to speak with Brian Tracy at an event in London, which is really interesting. It's someone I've watched over the years, and he was super successful on stage as one of those classic speakers who still wears the same thing and says the same stuff.
Yeah.
But someone who's done fairly well for themselves in this area.
Unquestionably.
And I've watched him, and I got invited. I was like, hey, that's awesome. And I thought about the audience. I'm like, well, these are business professionals. He talks to specifically small business owners. Mm-hmm. These aren't people, like these are small business owners specifically on success. And success is making money, achieving things, like having employees, growing a business. Like that's how you define success. It's not giving back, making a difference, traveling the world, anything like that. Sure. It's old school success.
And here are the 23 steps to do it.
Exactly. And there's golden rules to follow.
Yeah.
And it's helpful for some people. So I thought of that audience, and I was like, wow, okay, so I'll take my suit out of my closet, which I have a closet full of suits, and I don't wear any of them. But I'm like, I'll take my suit out of my closet because it'll be appropriate for this audience.
Yeah.
And I'll get it pressed. And I did this body transformation with one of our friends.
I was going to say, you probably don't even fit in it
None
anymore.
of my stuff fit. Like, my legs got too big. Suits don't fit me. Yeah. And so I had to have stuff retailored. But I have a couple suits that still fit. And I took one out, dusted it off. I was ironing it.
Right.
And I put it together. I'm like, okay, I'll take this with me to London. And we get there. And I spent all morning, and I put it on. I haven't put one of these on in a while. And I put the whole thing on, and I look in the mirror.
Did you put a tie on, too?
Almost. Oh, okay. I almost put a tie on. I just couldn't do that far.
I don't even know if I know how to tie one.
And I looked at it, and I looked at the team in the room, and I was like, what do you guys think? And they're like, yeah, it looks great. And I was like, really? I was like, this just feels weird.
Yeah.
And I put dress shoes on. I don't wear dress shoes. I wear tennis shoes everywhere and flip-flops. Mm-hmm. And so there's this weird thing, and it went through what you're talking about, where I sat there and I kind of looked at it, and I looked at myself, I was like, huh. I was like, I just can't do this.
Yeah.
And I literally went back into the bathroom.
Good for you.
Ripped it all off, put a pair of shorts on, put my tennis shoes on, and I was like, okay, I'll wear a button-down shirt to be appropriate. Mm-hmm. And what was wild is, like, I turned into a different version of myself.
Yeah.
Now, I think I might need to tone down the cussing a little bit if I review the footage. Might have got a little too aggressive.
For a Brian Tracy audience.
For a Brian Tracy audience. They did not like that. I did get some feedback that it was a little too much, or a lot too much in that case. But something magical happened. And there was a transformation in that moment where it was no longer about trying to present myself. It was no longer about trying to look the part. It was no longer about the presentation of it all, which is good and bad.
Yeah.
There's good sides to that. Women are very good at the presentation of themselves and the stage and the event and all that stuff. I've learned, if you want to make your event look spectacular and feel spectacular, have a woman on your team creating the event. Amazing. Totally different. My wife can create magic. I can't create in that area. It doesn't seem relevant to me. But in that dropping of what I thought it was supposed to look like or feel like, and just showing up and giving, what happened was something that was remarkable. Before I got in the room, people were literally pissed. And this happens from time to time. You walk into a room where you're there to present, and someone's not happy that you're there. Not the ideal room you want to walk into.
Yeah.
But I learned when I got down stage, they expected Brian to be on stage the entire time.
Oh, man. Yeah, I've been there before.
And they weren't excited that I was about to take up an hour of their life next.
I paid for Brian Tracy for the 8 hours.
And I didn't realize this. So when I walked out, instead of doing what you said, like, hey, nice to be here, so excited, great to see you, welcome, I walked out and I spoke the truth, which was how many of you are pissed off that Brian Tracy's not on stage right now?
Right.
Honestly. And I wanted to know the feedback. I wanted to know personally, because I wanted to know how many people hate me right now and how many people are actually interested.
It's going to determine how you go. And what.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
Everyone in the room raised their hand. They were pissed off that Brian Tracy was on stage. And I looked down at myself, and I said, obviously, I'm not Brian Tracy. Whole room started laughing. Yeah. And I said, but we got to talk about this. Because for me to walk out here and act like that's not a problem would be an insult to you. Mm-hmm. And so there's a realness that happened where it wasn't about the presentation. And I said, well, what do? I need to know so I can talk to you. Because if I talk about success and you're a lawyer or you're a nonprofit, it's going to be different. And I want to tailor this to you. So I started having a conversation. And what was interesting is the first lady stood up and she said, I want to be a professional, or I am a professional speaker. And I looked down and I said, well, don't ever do shit like this then. And everyone started laughing.
Right.
And it was an obvious point, but there's something unique that happened. Number one, it was all about them and not me. And I reviewed this afterwards. I said, what's different? Because what happened from the beginning to the end of the presentation, it went from a room full of people who were like this and literally pissed that I walked out next, to a room that was standing, engaged. There were people crying. There were people lining up afterwards to come say thank you. There were people signing up for stuff that I just mentioned was available, didn't even pitch or sell or try to close people. They just offered it. Yeah. And it was really amazing to watch. And the difference, though, is it became all about them and less about the presentation. Right. It less about how great my slides looked, less about how proper I looked, and less about am I wearing the right thing to impress them right now. Yeah. And it was like, hey, this is me. If you like me, great. If you don't, oh well. And though, how can I serve you? What can I do for you? If I can help you, I'm going to. If I can't help you, I'm out. Yeah. And you should be out. Don't waste your time, please. Yeah. And it became about this real conversation of, like you said, the things you pointed out. Number one, asking questions that I actually cared about.
That will determine the course of the presentation.
Exactly. Number two, actually communicating them based on what was going on in their world, not what was going on in my world. Yeah. I could have stood up here and presented and told them all the things that I think are important in life.
They would have tuned out. They wouldn't have heard any of it.
They wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
Instead, I'm like, what's going on in your world, and how can I help? And I'd like to share with you, like, tell me, what's up? Yeah. And so that piece, and then...
Go ahead.
The other piece was just a release of what I thought it was supposed to look like based on my opinion and my expectations.
Preconceived notions. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm gonna jump in real quick because you actually pointed out something which is important. I'll share with you another thing that I think we need to get rid of, and in the modern day speaker that used to be all the time. The one thing I'd recommend: get rid of your slide that says, "But first, a little bit about me." Get rid of that damn slide. Right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen speakers get up, and the first thing they do is they show, here's a little bit of background. Before I tell you all these great things that I'm going to tell you, let me tell you about why I'm so great. But it's not what they say, but that's what they say, right? And then they talk these slides that go through their whole history. The time to talk about how great you are is before you get up on stage. Have that in an intro. Have the promoter read it, or whoever the MC is, go through your bio to talk about all your impressive stats. Let somebody else do it. Don't be the one that gets up there and goes, well, let me tell you a little bit about me first. Because first off, nobody cares about you, right? They care about them, right? So the first thing out of your mouth should be, let me tell you a little bit about you, right?
It's a new realization. Is people want to, if they're watching and they came to an event to see who you are, to listen to you, they're curious, write it in a pamphlet. Have someone else say
a personal brochure.
It's the piece where, and there's two sides of this comment, which is one, you have enough of an ego to know that you can offer something special to somebody. Yep. And you have enough humbleness to know that people really don't give a shit who you are. They care how you can help them. Yeah. Yeah. And that sounds weird to say to people because people are working on their confidence and they're working on self-approval and appreciation, all this stuff. But there's a fine line in between those two layers, which is like, hey, you showed up to learn something for you, so we're going to make sure this is about you. And I'd love to tell you about my history, but you probably don't care. So I'm just going to stick to what's useful to you. And at the very end, if you want to know, I'll tell you where to go to read the rest of my freaking story.
Here's the thing. Being a speaker, professional speaker, public speaker, whatever you want to call it, it's a very interesting dynamic. Here's what you have to do. For 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour, however long the presentation is, for the most part, what you're doing is, as a speaker, you're getting up on stage and you have to talk about yourself without the audience ever thinking that you're talking about yourself. You talk about yourself and get them to think that you're talking about them. That's a cool strategy. So what I mean by that, when I say you're talking about yourself, generally speaking, you want to tell stories of your life, lessons that you've learned, stories that are engaging and entertaining. You don't want to tell stories about somebody else. That's another thing, by the way, is to get rid of the, Jesus, if I hear one more speaker tell the starfish story or the Roger Bannister story I mean, my God, those things have been around for so long. Let's just get rid of those things. And let's talk about ourselves, real life stories that have happened, right? So you talk about your own life's experiences, but you have to do it in a way to where people don't think you're talking about you, you're talking about them. And there's tons of techniques to do that, and they are techniques very specific that you can learn. And here's the best analogy I could give you. I like to tell my clients, I say when I'm coaching them on speaking, I say, think of your audience like a pack of dogs, which doesn't sound very flattering, right? But stick with me here, okay?
I'm imagining now.
Yeah. So dogs, have you ever noticed how people speak when they talk to a dog? They told their inflection, they do this, they do whatever they can to get that dog to cock its head, right?
Yep.
And if the dog's not cocking its head, they're going to do something different. They're going to get louder, softer, they're going to whisper, they're going to do something to try to get this dog to respond. But then when humans talk to other humans, it's like we don't give a fuck. We just have the way we speak and the way they got to catch up and get on board. So my thinking is we need to speak with humans more like we speak with dogs. In other words, be as responsive and as attentive to the reactions of your audience as you are to a dog. Right? Now, when you got a pack of dogs in the audience, what's the best way to get a pack of dogs to pay attention? Well, you got to wave a couple of biscuits around, right?
Yep.
You take a biscuit and you wave it around, they're going to follow you all over the place, right? But the thing is, if you take the biscuit and you never give it to them, eventually they'll get bored.
That's right.
So as a speaker, what you want to do, this is the time where apparently Jody's going to be bringing in my dog here. Hi. So
Would you like a biscuit?
Hi. Do you want a biscuit? Do you want a treat? She's like, I was taking a nap. This woman just came and woke me up.
Dogs lie.
And I'm still halfway in my dream right now. So what happens is, when you're speaking to an audience, you've got to throw them biscuits, right? So the technique of colors, you throw them a biscuit. So biscuits can be simple little things like this. It could be like wording, where you say something to the effect of, listen, I'm sure you can relate to this. And now you tell a story about yourself. That little phrase, I'm sure you can relate to this, is a way of throwing a biscuit to them, right? Another thing would be something like when you've told a story, at the end of that story, throw them a biscuit. They just sat there patiently listening to your self-indulgent life. Throw them a biscuit and make it worth them. Say, now what that means to you is, and then give the lesson, right? Or ask an engaging question in a rhetorical manner. So you say, so how could you apply that to your life, right? Where, and then maybe you label it. So if you were talking about, I don't know, if you were talking about paddling down a river and taking the wrong turn, you could look at them and say, so where are the wrong turns in your life, right? And you can throw those kind of things out. Those are all little biscuits that if you throw the audience, they'll stay engaged. And the funny thing is, you'll talk about yourself for the whole hour, and at the end they'll go, man, I felt like you were telling my life story. That's when you know you. By the way, I'm never complimented when somebody comes up to me at the end and go, oh man, I wish I could be a speaker just as good as you. That's, to me, like not a good, that's like an insult for me, because that means it seemed like I came off presentational, not conversational. Really what I want is I want people to walk up and go, man, you got an easy life. How hard is that to be? Get up and tell stories? That's a pretty cool gig. If they only knew how many hours of rehearsal I put into those stories to make it look conversational, right? But even better is if I can get them to say something to the effect of, I felt like you were telling my life story. If I can get that out of an audience, then I know I've done a good job.
Wow. Very cool. Very cool. I dig that.
Cool.
So, let's go back to a question we asked earlier.
Yes.
And see what people said. I might need to use your phone because mine seemingly doesn't have it. Let's see. Sahar asks, difference between a platform versus a keynote. Okay. But there was other questions.
While you're looking, I'll just answer that real quickly. I'm not sure what you mean by platform, but a keynote typically is a 45-minute presentation to an audience that does not participate but just sits and listens. That's typically what a keynote is. Sometimes they're 15 minutes, 30 minutes, but typically, like when Jairek and I get paid to come out and speak to a corporation, generally speaking, if we're the keynote, we're probably speaking for 45 minutes to kick off the event, or we're doing 45 minutes to finish the event. And it's an entertaining speech that lasts for 45 minutes, which generally speaking doesn't have a lot of engagement. It's just a lot of conversation and story. Whereas a workshop or a seminar, there's going to be conversation, engage, raise of hands. How many here want to come up on stage and try this out? There's interaction, there's participation. For those types of things, I still rehearse, but you can't necessarily rehearse how people respond. So you just have to be prepared for the different options. But for a keynote, I want to have that presentation memorized word for word and practice it. And I average will do about 20 hours of rehearsal for every 5 minutes on stage, which is not uncommon to a musician.
Absolutely.
Right? They're going to practice for hours and hours to make that guitar riff just look natural, so to speak.
Let's see. Topic, spiritual manhood, says Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Faith, family, and fitness. And the speaker he'd like to speak on stage with is John Maxwell.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that. So what I love about it is that he didn't just say spiritualism. He said spiritualism for men, right? And by the way, this is a real quick tip. If you are looking at getting into the professional speaking business where you want to make a living full-time as a speaker, you will be hard-pressed to just be a motivational speaker about life, where if people go, well, who's your ideal audience? You go, everybody. I talk about life. It's real hard to succeed nowadays. People don't, in our culture, people are no longer willing to tolerate a generic answer for a specific problem. What they want are specific answers for specific problems. 1980, I had a specific problem. I could go to a motivational speaker and get a generic answer, and I was required to force that into my life. So the generic answer might be goal setting, right? So if I had a relationship problem, goal setting. I'm like, I need to come up with relationship goals, right? Fitness, I want to have fitness goals. Nowadays, people aren't tolerating that. What they want is what is a 30-day body transformation package? Or what is a 45-day path to enlightenment for men that are trying to find their spiritual selves? So they're looking very specific. And that might be different than for women or something like that. So well done, buddy.
That's right. I like it. Next up, Love, Belonging, and the Need for Community is the name of the book. And she would like to speak on the same stage as Oprah. Nice.
Very cool. I love that ambition. I think we all would like to speak on the same stage as Oprah. That's like the brass ring out there. Could I, if I were to look at that, the what's the title again of that book? Or the topic of the book?
Where did it go?
Love,
Belonging, and the Need for Community.
Love, Belonging, and the Need for Community. Belonging. Love, belonging, and the need for community. Yeah. So the interesting thing about that is that I'm not exactly sure who your audience is. So if you could just qualify that with a specific type of group of people, might be a little bit easier to break into that business. Now, I know what you might be thinking, though, is that, well, everybody could benefit from that. And I totally agree with that. But let's think back to the most successful businesses that are out there today. Your Facebooks, your Apples, your Teslas, all of these kind of companies. Amazon, right? How they started was they started for one specific target, and that's all they worked for. And then as they mastered that target, they kept expanding out beyond that, right? So Tesla started with a high-end electric version of a Ferrari. It was a $150,000 electric sports car, and they sold, I don't know, not a lot of them.
That's one that looked like Lotus?
Yeah. But the money that they made from that, they were then able to create a sedan. So then they created the $85,000 sedan. I forget what the model is, right? And then they sold a bunch of those to where then they could make the SUV. And then they sold a bunch of those to where now they finally have made a $30,000 Tesla that everyone could buy. But they started off with a niche, right? Amazon. All they did is they sold books. But they didn't sell books everywhere. They only sold books to rural areas that didn't have a bookstore within 60 miles.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's how they got their start. Facebook. It just started off as a rating for system for who was hot and who was not at Harvard. Harvard. Yeah,
Hotornot.com.
Yeah. And then the Facebook, and then it went to Facebook. But it all started off as just a very specific thing for a very specific school. So as your fame builds, then you can expand out beyond that. Yep.
Very interesting. Here's another one: creating a business while raising kids.
Great, love it. That's a specific topic. Creating a business while raising kids is perfect. I know exactly who your market is. They're married couples that have 2 or more kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Yeah.
As she said, I don't speak publicly. I'm terrified of it.
That's
any
okay.
Tips?
Yeah. Tips would be do it as many times as you can. It's not really a matter of using a technique to overcome it. The best technique to overcome it is to just do it over and over again. So I'd recommend you get in front of an opportunity, find an opportunity that allows you to get in front of a group of people. The best one out there for people who are afraid to speak is Toastmasters. Toastmasters is an international nonprofit organization where you can join a club and you can go there on a weekly basis, usually like 7:30 in the morning on a Thursday, meet a local church or business office, and you can practice getting up and speaking, and they have a curriculum and a format. It's very well laid out. It's not designed to make you into a professional speaker by any stretch of the imagination. It's designed to help you feel comfortable getting up and doing a 2 or 3 minute presentation in front of people, and it's fantastic. I recommend it in my book, the book on public speaking. I tell people, if you need to overcome your fear fear of public speaking, that book ain't going to do it for you unless you read the advice that says join Toastmasters. They're a good company for that.
So I have an interesting story about Toastmasters.
Yeah.
I was invited to speak at their international something convention in Dubai.
Okay.
And I've never done Toastmasters before.
Dogs looking in the back. Yeah.
And I didn't realize...
You break all the rules. They probably hated... He was so not following the format. Toastmasters, I will tell you, they're a little bit anal about their ums and their ahs.
There's a beautiful part of that, though. Yeah. There's a very beautiful part of that, because it teaches you structure. And
yeah.
This is something
I could probably go back and clean up my language.
When I was younger, I could certainly think they don't believe in cussing from stage either.
Yes.
I learned that. That was not something I was aware of. So, there's also... So, hold on. Long time ago, I remember I was interested in flying. My dad said, wait a minute, if you're going to learn how to fly, he says, you have to learn how to fly a plane first. And I said, why? Why not just helicopter? And he says, here's why. Because with a plane, there's certain rules you have to live by structure-wise. Mm-hmm. You have to fly at a certain altitude. You have to bring it down for this reason. You have to move to this space. You have to adjust over here and do this. And the reason you do that is because all those regulations and rules are what keep you safe with all the traffic and movement in the air. Mm-hmm. There's the helicopter, though, as long as you stay under a certain altitude, you can literally do almost whatever you want.
Right.
And there's so much freedom there. You can zip up and down, you can move around, you got to watch for traffic and just move around it. And so what's interesting, if you hear sniffing, it's Macy sniffing the mic. What's interesting for that topic or that concept is there's something useful about going somewhere that teaches you structure first to learn how to just get good at living within the lines.
Totally agree.
And then move out and make it your own.
Yeah.
Something beautiful about that. Now,
what happened in Dubai?
So I wore jeans and a button-down shirt with, I think, tennis shoes.
Okay, yep, that's you.
Everyone in the room was wearing suits and proper speaking attire. And there's multiple layers here of things that it went good. They loved it.
Yep.
And hated it at the same time.
Sure.
The love was, it was great, it was amazing. People were like, wow, oh my gosh, I saw how you did this, and that was amazing when you did this thing, and everyone was, oh man, this, like they were critiquing the actual presentation more than listening to it.
Totally.
So the good part was...
But that's their job.
They enjoyed the presentation. They saw the structure. They saw the pieces. They understood why this fit together and how this worked together. They were like, wow, that was neat how you rolled this into this. I didn't think you were going to do that, but that was really cool how you did this at the end. It was like, oh, wow. So they were so impressed by that. What they weren't impressed by was a couple of things. One, cussing.
Yeah.
Two, I did not follow the appropriate way of presenting.
Mr. Toastmaster.
Mr. Toastmaster.
Honored guests.
Honored guests.
Judges. Today, I'll be speaking about goals or whatever. Right? Yeah.
I walked out. Yeah. Hey, how you guys doing?
Yeah.
Glad to be here. Excited to be here. Honestly, here's what I'd love to know. And I just wanted a conversation. So
you didn't notice that the whole crowd was going, he didn't address this, he didn't do this, he didn't do this.
So that was the part that didn't go so well.
Love it.
But there's beauty in that, which you mentioned in the book. And the beauty really simply is the ability to bring originality, but to live within that structure first. And what I didn't mention is before I got started speaking, and this is something that's interesting, I didn't walk outside one day and be like, hello, world, I'm here to start presenting to you. I actually spent 2 years doing a structured presentation.
Memorized one.
A memorized presentation, word for word. And 2 years on the road, delivering that 800 times before I ever decided to go try my own. And the first probably 50 of my own were almost the same as that presentation because what would happen is I would walk outside and as soon as I would get uncomfortable, I'd go back to what was most comfortable. Mm-hmm. And there's something interesting that happens with people. You were talking about, so the lady doesn't get enough sleep and then she gets stressed. She goes back to whatever her home is, comfort-wise. Yeah. And what was home 800 times in a row was that presentation. So I would go out there, broke the rule, didn't do the proper preparation, didn't organize it, didn't do all this stuff, get up, get nervous, and go, oh shoot, right back to what's most comfortable.
Yeah.
And so what's wild is that initial desk work is a game changer. That work and preparation and practice so that you can watch your favorite TV show the night before and be totally relaxed, just ready to go the morning of.
You'll do so much better for presentation, trust me.
You really will. And then what happens if you get nervous? You just go to what you do. If you get excited, you just do what you do. But all those things change as you get comfortable and do these stages. So desk work, camera work, test it here. Test your speech on your Facebook audience. Do a Facebook Live with it and see what happens and watch the comments and see what they say. And then finally get up on stage.
Don't be nicer than the YouTube people.
That's true. They're a little aggressive. No offense, YouTube people. Don't take that to heart if you watch it on YouTube.
Let's face it. Some of the YouTube viewers are trolls. Yeah.
But the final comment there is you'll get to a point where that will become what your comfortable zone is. And you talked about this in a previous book you'd written, which is making your comfort zone the uncomfortable place.
Yeah.
Because that's where, if your uncomfortable place is your comfort zone, when you get uncomfortable, you'll go back to what you need to do, your automatic training. They train this stuff in the military. Yeah. Under heavy fire, heavy combat, loud explosions, craziness going on, they need you to do the same routine to get the job done.
Yeah. By the way, honestly, it gets as we don't want to insult our servicemen and women. It doesn't get that crazy. But things that go wrong, they train the military to prepare for everything that goes wrong. Oh, down, puppy dog. But I've got my next meeting's coming in here. So, but on stage, everything can go wrong. Hey, Jody, could you come over for a second, please? Yeah. So you've got to be prepared for everything that could go wrong. Here, I'll let you talk to them real quickly.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up in just a moment, and here's a couple things I need you to do. Number one, if you haven't clicked the link, you're going to need to go to the link, go buy this book. Any of the websites that sells books, it's on sale, I think, for the next 24, 48 hours for $2.99, the digital version.
Yeah, 24 hours only in honor of National Professional Speakers Day.
Very cool.
Although the book is released tomorrow.
There you go. So if you're going to do that, what you want to do is write "I bought it" down in the comment section. And what we're going to do is, as soon as this is over, I'm going to comb through and figure out who played along, who answered the questions, because we support people who participate and who take action.
Yep. Cool.
And we're going to go ahead and have one of these signed directly to you, and then I'm going to take it home and mail it to you.
Sweet.
Here's the other piece. If you know someone who is on path or wants to become a public speaker, or is a public speaker, or is a professional speaker and needs this, what I'd love you to do, great present to give with them, and we believe that sharing is caring around here, and caring is a good thing to do in the world. So if you wouldn't mind, click the share button on this video, and I'm going to watch who shared it, who might have bought a book, and who also participated. And for those of you, I'm going to pick, maybe we have 2 books here. So if you don't mind, I'll buy 2 from you, and we'll go ahead and mail them out to the people watching.
Lots of comments.
There's lots of comments.
Most of them are from my smart-ass work wife, Jody McClain.
Let's see. My topic for my book would be to help children build up their self-confidence. Very nice.
Love it. It's great. It's a very unique niche.
Very cool. So final task from us to you, go grab a copy of the book, read it, comment on it. If you love it, share a review on it on all of the Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the different sites.
If you don't love it,
it's true. That's true. And then final, if they want to know more about this, is there a website attached to this book or your website that they can come and learn more
if
they want more information beyond the book?
Yeah, they can go to tophermorrison.com.
Tophermorrison.com. Very cool. So we're going to wrap up here because your next meeting is here.
Yes.
Thank you for coming on and hanging out with us.
My pleasure, man. This was really fun.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure to go grab a copy of this awesome book. And if there's any questions that come up later, I will email them over for you to answer if you don't mind.
Don't mind at all.
Very cool. So check it out. Go buy a copy of the book right here. We'll just do this for the end. If you don't mind keeping this going like this until... Sure. So we're just... That's what you need to buy right there. Go ahead. Grab a copy. And thank you for tuning in. And we will see you all later. Go get it. Quick. Now. Special offer. Go now. Buy it.